said earlier this week that Mexican fighters usually have problems with a guy who's going to move and punch on them. So with that being said, how do you beat this guy if that's the way he's going to fight?
No solo.
Not only Mexican fighters will have difficulty with a fighter that moves and is so elusive like Jacobs. Any fighter can have problems with him. But that's what we prepared ourselves for. We're ready for something like that and more. We have the experience and did the necessary preparation in the gym. Last week, I was able to interview legendary Mexican champions of the past, and they unanimously consider you right now top 10 in the history of Mexico. How do you feel? How does that motivate you to hear their words about you at this point in your career?
No, pues agradecido, ¿no?
I'm very grateful to hear those words coming from fighters of that stature, and it's an extra motivation for me to continue writing the history, to be and become at the end one of the greatest Mexican fighters and boxers, period.
Don't you think you're one of the greatest, period, not Mexican, but just any boxer?
Pues eso es muy difícil, ¿no?
Difficult for me to answer that. You know, I'll continue doing my thing and continue winning my fights and writing my history, but at the end, it's you guys determine that.
No, pues siempre significa mucho.
I'm always grateful and appreciate all the support and love the fans always give me, not just here, but everywhere I go. And I'm just grateful for them.
No, pues más que nada felicidades.
The question was, what message do you send all the children in Mexico? Today's day of the child. And he says first I send them all, all my best, to not only to all the children in Mexico, mine as well, and to find whatever they're going to dedicate themselves and be motivated and work hard because they can achieve it. Oscar mentioned earlier that regardless of the outcome of Saturday, Canelo should be already pound for pound above a Crawford or Lomachenko because of the opposition he has faced, much better opposition. Obviously, a win over Jacobs on Saturday is a much more significant win that they've had in their past few fights.
Pues mira, primero que nada agradecido.
First, I'm grateful to Oscar for putting me in that position. And as far as where they put me on those lists, look, it's individuals that do that. Their individual, their own opinion. I've never really focused on whether I'm number 1 or 2 or 3. I just keep doing these type of fights to put me and keep writing the history to put me as one of the best.
No, mira, la verdad es que no.
The question was, there's politics that we won't see a Lomachenko against Mikey Garcia or a Terrence Crawford against Spence. You just did a big contract with the Zone, and also in your division you have some of the big names also with the Zone. How does that fulfill you? And Canelo's answer was, look, I'm not focused on the contract. I'm happy with it, of course, but I worked hard for it. There's a reason I'm here for it. The sun is going to shine on everybody at one point in their career, depending on what they put into it. I've put in the hard work. I'm not focused on the contract. I'm happy about it, of course, but my thing is to continue fighting the best fights.
Remember, there's been a fighter Canelo has fought that's similar to Jacobs.
Que si usted recuerda de un rival que Canelo ha peleado que tenga parecido a Jacobs. Saul has fought every style, faced everybody out there. We've never turned our back or never rejected any opponent. Similar style, maybe Erislandy Lara, who was very difficult, but that's what he's prepared for. He has the experience to face Jacobs. Right now, Jacobs is very difficult, tough, number 2. He's the number 2 in the division, the second best middleweight. Obviously, Canelo's the number 1.
How have you grown into being so comfortable and confident into things such as, taking on a main event on Cinco de Mayo, taking on the Golovkin challenge, and now sort of, taking this fight that an entire network, so to speak, is really on your back, hoping that you'll succeed and draw a lot of subscribers. How do you deal with all that?
Pues yo creo que como lo dije,
I do my thing. I concentrate, I work hard, I do it, and things unfold and fall into place. Like the contract, like the opponents, like everything that's happening. It's just me continue doing my thing so that it all unfolds that way.
Do you feel Jacobs is better than Golovkin at this point in their careers?
Técnicamente sí.
Yes, technically he's a much better fighter. Look, his abilities are much better. He's much more difficult. The question is, look, you've beaten numerous amount of former world champions, current world champions at the time. Your numbers speak for themselves. What does it mean to your legacy to continue fighting and beating these types of opponents like you have in the past?
No, para mí es muy
Look, it's very important, and that's why I work hard. not only the two fighters mentioned that I took their undefeated record, but before them, before the title fights and everything, I took a lot of undefeated records from previous opponents. So that's why it's very important to me for continue working and continue writing my history.
Sí, sí, sin dudas.
And where would you put Jacobs on that list of 14 former world champions that you've defeated? And he says at the top, one of the most complicated, one of the most complete styles in boxing. The question is, there's been a lot of talks of you fighting back in Mexico once again. Would you like it to be at the Estadio Azteca? Would you like it to be in your home state? Is something like this possible, unifying your titles, or what do you think?
Como lo he dicho siempre, no.
Look, like I said before,
Cualquier parte de México.
I haven't really gone into much thought of this subject, but for me, it's always going to be a great honor to fight in Mexico, not just there, anywhere in Mexico.
Canelo, could we expect a vicious body attack from you in this fight?
Sí, esa es una parte muy importante.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very important attack plan, not just in this fight, but in all my fights.
Eddie, how good is the middleweight division right now? Do you think it's the best division in boxing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the middleweight division is running at one of its best moments right now. You know, after all the title defenses Golovkin had, he's passed on the torch to Canelo, and it's going through one of its best moments in the division.
Canelo, can I just ask you, other than the money, obviously, which is important to you, but what
Fuera del
motivates
dinero,
you to keep doing
¿qué
this
es lo
after
que te
all these years?
motiva después de
You say you
tantos
want to
años?
still go through all this for a number more years. What is your motivation these days?
Amo el boxeo.
I love boxing. I love what I do, and that's a great motivation to continue working hard and also to give a good example to my children.
Well, your thoughts on being a part of a promotion and a fight where both fighters respect and like each other, there's no bad blood, no trash talk, is that refreshing? It's something new, I guess.
No, pues yo siempre...
I've always characterized myself as being like that. I've never been one to try to sell a fight or promote a fight by just talking. I do my thing in the ring. At times it hasn't been that way because of the other side, but I've always been the same.
Yeah, that's kind of been the notion of the fight, especially the general public who truly don't know what I all bring to the table. You know, I have so many different things that I can do inside that ring. I mean, we've seen it in my last fight with Serbian Derevchenko. I use a different style that you guys are not normally used to seeing, and it benefited me to get the victory. And for this fight, I look forward to doing the same, putting everything together, figuring out what I need to do inside the ring, but ultimately just making it a decisive win. I don't want no controversy with this decision.
Well, I mean, because the Triple G fight kind of wound up being controversial, came up just that short. So do you feel like there's anything in this fight you need to do different from that experience that'll make the difference between, you know, just losing by that much and winning the fight?
Maybe letting my hands go a little bit more, even though in the Golovkin fight we did let our hands go a lot. And landing the more significant punches. You know, sometimes Canelo has the crowd, and even when you block certain punches or combinations, the crowd go oohs and ahs, and that can be somewhat, you know, of an influence to the judges. But I'm very comfortable with the judges that we have, so there's no controversy with that. I'm happy with the referee that we have. So for me, it's really ultimately up to me to go inside the ring and do my job, because I know that, you know, I have and all of that I asked for was a fair shake. You know, with everyone talking and bringing up the judges and things of that nature, I've always said and agreed that, yeah, Canelo does sometimes get favoritism in Vegas, but all I ever wanted was just a clean shot to go in there and face one of the best to prove that I'm the best. And I think that we've got that with the panel.
What did the judges? If I could, when you were at your low point fighting cancer, could you ever imagine that you would be at a point like this where you're fighting in the biggest fight of the year and fighting, you know, maybe the biggest star in boxing?
Absolutely not. And my lowest point to me was when I had to move back in Brownsville with my mom, and I was sleeping on my mom's couch. And, you know, even at that time, it was still really hard for me to maneuver and walk and do all of these different things. So, you know, sleepless nights, you know, times where I used to cry, times where I used to just even doubt if I can even walk right again. I never thought about this opportunity. I always just wanted to get back into boxing, you know, and see how far I could take it. But I never thought that I would fight for a world championship and, you know, fight the biggest names in boxing and have the biggest opportunities with so many different people backing me. I mean, this is the greatest opportunity that I can even have, let alone dream about. So I'm looking forward to taking advantage of it all.
And how did your mindset change when you've been through that now adversity in boxing probably looks a lot different than, you know, real adversity?
Well, to me, it really motivates me through training. It really motivates me mentally when I'm going through, because boxing is all mental. You know, sometimes you can get nervous, sometimes you can doubt yourself, sometimes you can feel as if you don't belong. But all of that is behind me. I feel like this is my time. I feel like this is destined for me. And all my trials and tribulations have got me to this point to where I'm mentally strong, and the mental has got me to a place where I can be physically at my best. And I'm in stellar shape. I'm looking forward to putting it all together come fight night.
And last question on that topic. When you said you had to move back in with your mom in Bronzeville, was it because you needed her to take care of you physically, or was it because money-wise you just had nothing going on?
Well, at that time, I was the golden child, right? And, you know, things were coming at me so fast. You know, I was with De La Hoya and those guys. You know, we was with Golden Boy, right? And we was fighting every other month, or every month we were fighting, right?
Yeah.
And we would come to Vegas and go back to New York and, you know, fight in so many different places. So, you know, for me, I thought that it couldn't end. And my spending habits, down to so many other different things that I can say, but it led me to a place where not only financially, but physically, I couldn't take care of myself. And I had to move back in with my mom and, you know, to make sure that I can be okay. And I still had my child, I had my lady, I had so many different things and so many hurdles that I had to jump over for me to be at this point now, which I'm grateful for.
The assumption is that Canelo's going to be the guy he's going to kind of come forward.
Say that one more time?
The assumption is that Canelo's
Okay.
going to come forward, but we've also seen him, you know, the first Golovkin fight,
Yeah.
for example, where he boxed a bit. What are you expecting to see from him?
I really don't know. You know, I really don't know how Canelo views me. You know, I know Golovkin is bigger than Canelo, and he was sort to be maybe one of the strongest fighters Canelo has ever faced. But for me, when he looks into my eyes and when he's standing next to me, I'm not sure if he's kind of gauging the same type of game plan, because I'm a big force and I'm a big guy with skills and with speed and with ring IQ. So we're not going to be expecting Canelo Álvarez to go in there and back us up, but we are going to adjust to see exactly what he brings to the table. But in doing that, we're also going to implement our game plan. So we want to start from the rip, from initiating what we're going to do and set the tone.
You mentioned the judges. Now, I also heard you say before that you thought Golovkin won the fight.
Yeah.
Why didn't that raise any flags in your head? That it's the same group that gave him the second fight.
Because the same judges that judge that fight aren't judging this fight. And it's really not to take anything away from those judges. I mean, I don't have anything disrespectful to say about anybody, but sometimes people can be influenced by the crowd or be influenced by whatever other source. And the guys that we have are stand-up guys who have so much experience, you know, who's done very good jobs on big fights such as this. So I know I'm in good hands.
Benny, how has this experience in Vegas been different for you than the last time that you came here for a fight, which obviously was a turbulent
9
time?
years ago, right? It's been great. It's been kind of weird because I've been out here for 2 weeks now. And, you know, Vegas is really kind of dead. Like, stop it is. when it's not fight, I've only kind of been here, you know, when it's fight time. So to kind of be around, and even though we've seen, like, you know, some of the posters and the media and some of the artworks and stuff, but it's just been real chill. We've been fine-tuning since we've been out here, getting a little bit of the weight off, and we're perfect now. So for me, it's really just a calm before the storm.
When the last time you came here, obviously your grandmother had just passed and everything. Can you take us through what like that week was like, and considering not?
Yeah, no, it was hard for me, the Pirog fight. It was the biggest mental challenge that I've ever had to face in my life, because my grandmother, she was like my mom. She was my rock. She was my angel, right? And we had the fight set up for Saturday. We were in the hospital with her on Tuesday and Wednesday. Our flight was scheduled to leave Thursday. She passed away on Wednesday with everybody, all my family around her at the table. We actually seen her take her last breaths. So for all of us just, experiencing that, it was so devastating. And I had to get on a plane the next morning and head out to Vegas to face the toughest opponent that I could ever face at that time. And mentally, I just feel like I didn't have enough time to grieve and get my mind right to go for battle. Because when you go for battle, we know boxing is mental. You have to be headstrong too. So, so for me, I'm just ecstatic that I'm going into this fight with the confidence, the full confidence, the mental capacity that I need to be victorious in every way, shape, form.
You didn't consider pulling out of that fight, though, right? You said
for the Perot fight?
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I considered it, but at that time, I wanted to do it for her glory. I had my team. I had so many other people. Al was telling me, don't take the fight. There's going to be other opportunities. But for me, I thought that I can do it in her honor. And I had training camp for so long. I didn't want all of that to go to waste. And, I made the judgment call, but it was the wrong call. But I'm grateful for all that happened because it mentally made me a better person, a better fighter, and mentally strong in this point in my career.
And just like you asked a question before, what's the difference between back then and now? Back then, Danny was a boy. Right now, he's a man.
Well said, yeah.
Very
true.
2 years ago, when he fought Golovkin, he really stepped up to the plate and showed the world he belonged there. But I think this fight is happening at the right time. If it happened 2 years earlier or 6 months later, it wouldn't have been the right time. Right now is the right time. And I have a funny little feeling something dramatic's going to happen Saturday night that nobody's going to expect.
Hey, Danny, just going into that fight, when you were knocked down, were you capable at all going on? Robert Byrd kind of pushed you down and that. Yeah. Do you remember that finish there? And was there any capability of you getting back up?
Never in my life have I seen a referee push a fighter down at the count of 4 or 5.
Didn't give him a chance.
And it's a world title opportunity. I felt like I need to have been handled with a different type of care, right? Give me the opportunity to go to 10 to where you can say I was knocked out, not make the judgment call for me, because I was very conscious even on the floor. I was thinking in my mind, take your time. I mean, yeah, it was a great shot. I went down. I seen the scars, everything that you see when you get clipped, but I was breathing. I was gonna get up and just like Tyson Fury and the Undertaker. I went to get up like the Undertaker, right, and showed him that I was ready for battle. But he made the judgment call for me, and all I can do is look at it as just a learning experience. But for me, I thought that in that moment, if I was a referee, especially a fight of that magnitude, being a world title fight, I would have gave him the count and the opportunity to get up. Let me go out on my knees. Let me go out fighting. Let me go out swinging. So he made the judgment call for me, but only he knows what was going through his mind at the time. So, I mean, I'm past that. I don't hold him accountable for it. That what has happened has happened. All I can do is just use that as an example to,
Just to follow up on that, though, because if you're, healthy enough to fight on, you want to win this title for your grandmother. And that would have been the greatest thing you could do to get up off the canvas to win the fight. Has that haunted you, the fact that you didn't get that opportunity to finish the fight and try to do for her what you wanted?
That haunted me more than the loss did. The referee making the decision for me haunted me so much more because I knew what I had left in store. And even though I was hurt and mentally and physically I wasn't at the best, I still felt like I could have finished the fight. I mean, we were still winning the fight. We were ahead on all scorecards in that fight, so I was still in the fight. We were in the game, but he decided to make that call for me. Only he knows, like I said, what was going through his mind. And I think the only thing that baffles me, besides the fact that he stopped the fight, which was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I seen Robert Byrd at the Hall of Fame out here in Vegas, and we spoke. Well, not really spoke, but we said hello, and he sent someone to me at my table, you know, the Hall of Fame that you get your own table. He sent someone with a picture of me laying on the ground and asked me to sign the picture for him when him waving the fight off.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. I never told you that?
No, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I would've-
So, to me, that was like insult to injury. He couldn't do it himself. He had to send somebody else to ask me to sign a picture of me laying on the like, what fighter would do that? Let alone the referee that made the judgment call. I thought it was so disrespectful, and I was so disappointed in him from doing that. But like I said, we don't know what was going through his mind. We don't know truly who he is. And at the end of the day, all I can do is use that as an example. But that was definitely a low blow.
Did
him
you
doing
sign
that.
the picture?
Hell no, I signed that damn picture.
Andre, can you just comment?
Man.
Finish that fight.
Just signed that picture.
Of course, when Robert, what bothered me most at that point in time was, okay, this is boxing. You might get knocked down. This is the nature of the game. He was counting, and I'm watching Danny, and actually I'm yelling. I said, son, get up. And at the count of 4, he's waving it off, and Danny springs up. It's not even a second between. He springs up, and Robert pushes. I'm like, what the hell? And in my eyes at that point in time, I thought he could have really just gotten up and he's ready to go again. This is a world title fight. Give him a chance to once again get on his feet and perform. He did not get that chance, and I've always said that. I'm like, why did he push him down? What was that all about? Very, very strange. And now to hear that he had a photograph and he wanted him to autograph the photograph of what he did, seems like it was just a moment for him.
Danny, you know, the whole lead up to this fight, you guys have liked each other pretty much, you and Canelo. Is there any chance you're giving your opponent too much respect?
No, absolutely not, because I know how to turn it off and on. I have a job to do, but I do my job with mean intentions too. So when that first bell ring, I'm going to go in there and try to take your head off. There's no buddy, there's no, you know, amigos. It's none of that. It's just going in there and taking care of business. But, you know, he also have what I would predict the fans and the crowd on his side. So for me, I want to go in there and not only gain a couple fans, but, you know, go in there and do damage in front of his fans. I want to embarrass him. Like I've always said, this is the name of the game. This is boxing. Ain't no buddy inside that ring. Somebody can go in there and kill you. Somebody can go in there and do real damage to you to where I can't go back to my family and have a normal life. I can get really, really hurt. So I don't take this thing lightly. I mean, yeah, what you see on the outside is just me being cool and casual, but you know, at the end of the day, I want to prove that I'm the best, but by being the best version of me, but doing damage most importantly.
Well, it's interesting that, like you just said, do damage, put a hurting on Canelo, because, Andre, I want to know what you think too. Do you want to limit the exchanges in this fight though, because Canelo is so good in the exchanges, you know, making a guy miss and making a pay in the exchanges. Do you want to limit that, the amount of it being a fire fight, because that may be, do you feel that's Canelo's best chance to win would be to exchange punches with him? Or?
Well, this is called the art of boxing, to strike without being struck. So of course, that's what it is.
Yeah, right.
We do not want to be just playing Rock'em Sock'em Robot.
Right.
Although if it came down to that, I'd expect Danny to be well ahead because he has incredible flash combinations that he throws, and if he gets you hurt, he will rumble you down to the ground. And I think that would be in Canelo's least best interest to try to engage in a massive firefight. I believe he would lose each and every time he tried, because we're not going to throw a 1, 2, 3 like Golovkin does. His arsenal is 1, 2, 3. Stop. 1, 2, 3. Danny's arsenal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's where it comes from. And once again, our job is to keep him under our control, not to be, I'm at bay with Canelo. I'm moving and retreating from Canelo. Danny's the bigger man. He's the stronger man. He's the faster man. If he has to put his feet in that ground and start digging on him, you're going to see something very explosive.
Danny, you talk about your grandmother a lot. In the years that have passed, how much
do you think about it before each fight? And what do you think she would think about this moment, seeing that you've gone through all the adversity with cancer and now you're on the biggest stage of your career?
I mean, I think about my grandmother all the time. I mean, I try not to think about it close to fights or, right before fights because it gets me emotional still. I mean, when you've lost someone that is your everything, it's kind of hard to not feel those emotions rise each and every time. I mean, the last time we did an interview, we talked about my dad and, so I still have pain within from my past experiences, but I know how to turn them off and control it so that I can be my best version inside the ring. And boxing is mental, so I have to go in there with a clean slate, with a focused mind, and want to go in there and do damage. But I can't think about anything else other than getting the job done.
You talked about nervous energy. When's the last time you were nervous for a fight?
It might have been the second Sergio Mora fight, and it wasn't because I was fearful of anything, but it was I don't even know what it was. We already beat him. We was going out there, but I was extremely nervous. Normally Andre slaps me, right? When I tell him, Dre, I'm a little nervous. You got, help me out. So he slaps me. He's like, get yourself together. You know what I mean? And we went out there and we did the work, but, I spoke to a good friend of mine, Andre Durrell, years ago, and he told me every fight he gets nervous backstage. And he says, I don't even understand why I'm even doing this, how much I get nervous, but we're human, but I do a lot of meditating so that I can control that aspect of it to where I can be mentally focused and strong and go in there with just no nervousness. Because sometimes nervous affects you in a bad way. Your legs may take a couple rounds to get strong, or if you get hit in that first round, you might not be able to take the shot. But I've been at this platform before. I've been at this stage before. Maybe not of this particular magnitude, but I've had thousands of fans in the crowd cheering on the fight, knowing that millions of people are watching in the world. So I've experienced this before. So it's not my first rodeo. I don't look forward to being nervous. If anything, I'm excited. I want to get in there, and I want to. I don't want to say I want to bang, because you're gonna take that as me going in there and just want to knock them out. But I want to bang. I want to give the crowd a good show.
Hey, let me tell them a story. I'm gonna tell you guys a story when we were fighting Kid Chocolate. So we get in the back, and Danny says, "I'm nervous." I said, "Okay, bah! Let's get ready to rock and roll." So he warms up, and he comes over and says to me, "I'm gonna knock Kid Chocolate out." So I said, "Okay, good." I said, "But let's just be careful." And he says it again going out. He said, "I'm gonna knock Kid Chocolate out." So I'm expecting Danny to come out, stick, sharp, get it going. He jumped on Kid Chocolate like Kid Chocolate stole his lunch money. And I was surprised. Oh my God, he beat him into oblivion. And I just a moment of it, because you never know with Danny, but that was a spectacular moment. So you guys look out. You never know with Danny Jacobs.
Danny, do you think with that fight, I was going to ask you about the Kid Chocolate fight. Peter is a good fighter, but he's a guy that also kind of thinks a lot and lets things get in his head. Did you jump on him for that reason, because he's probably back there nervous and he's thinking about you and thinking about all the possibilities of what could happen?
No, I jumped on him because that's in my nature to do when I have a guy hurt, is just to go in there and try to knock him out and get the job done. And we have our drills that we do, that we formulate a game plan just to go in there and throw punches and bunches, and if you don't get the knockout, then eventually the referee will see a lot of unanswered punches and they'll stop the fight. So when we had him hurt, he was one of the strongest fighters that I've ever faced, and he didn't even hit me. I felt the wind go past my ear when he threw a right hand, but just seeing his physique, I knew it was going to be a long night had it gone to decision. So that also probably helped me and motivated me to get the job done as soon as I could.
A lot has been made about the weight in this fight, rehydration clauses. We're only on Tuesday, but how are you feeling weight-wise?
Weight-wise, I'm great. I'm stellar. This whole 10-day weigh-in for the next day, that's not really going to affect me, and it's definitely not going to dictate what I'm going to come into the ring as, because if that's the reason why they implemented it, because the IBF took that rule away once it's a unification match. So it was definitely something that Golden Boy implemented, so that I'm not sure if they're looking at it as an advantage or what, but it was their doing. And for me, it's not going to affect me because in my last fight, I followed the same procedures and we were good for the last fight. I look forward to doing the same.
Just in that respect as well, the weight limit has nothing to do with the governing bodies. So if Danny came out in over the 10 pounds, it has no relevance to the titles on the line for this fight.
There's penalties, though, right?
Yeah.
Monetary penalties.
Yeah.
How much do you think you're going to come in? Because you still have all day to eat lunch and everything else.
Well, I want to come in what I've been my whole training camp, which is about 174, 175. So I want to gain about a good 15 pounds. That's to me where I'm at my optimum. Anything over that, I'm sluggish. Anything over that, and that's with this whole Triple G thing where I came in 180, 85 pounds. If you see me perform at that level, it's not the best. I'm super sluggish. I'm not fast, especially the way I was moving on my feet. You're not going to get a type of performance out of a guy that's overweight. It's not good for your body to gain so much weight after a weigh-in like that and perform. You're not going to be at your best. So 10, 15 pounds for me is, 12 to 15 pounds for me is perfect.
Yanni, I've been wondering, the 2 years after the Golovkin fight, you've had to kind of sit on the sidelines in some ways and kind of watch him and Canelo Golovkin and Canelo go at it. At the same time, you were kind of able to parlay, that performance in the Golovkin fight into some decent paydays from HBO. And I was just kind of wondering, these 2 years, as you kind of watched these two guys go at it, was it frustrating at all for you, or were you kind of satisfied with?
Oh no, I was cool. I knew my opportunity was going to come. I just knew I had to work harder for it, and having a great team to kind of structure my career in the path that, I'm getting all these opportunities. I knew one day my time was going to come. I known that the performance from the Golovkin fight had a lot of guys, a little nervous and look at me as, high risk, low reward. But once I got that opportunity to become a champion, when I faced Sergey Derevyanchenko, I knew that everybody was going to either come for me or accept me as an opponent because I have something to offer to the table, not that I'm just a threat with no belt and they want to look the other way. So I'm grateful for my team for making it happen, but ultimately I just want to thank my team for, my ground team, my trainers, everybody who's on the floor with me for sticking by me and putting that hard work with me when, boxing is one of those sports where sometimes if you lose, that might be it. You might not ever get those opportunities again. So I'm just grateful for everybody who stuck with me, especially Eddie and DAZN for stepping up and my man Keith for making the deals that he's been making with me. I'm the happiest fighter. I'm like so extremely excited to have all of these opportunities, and it's really now up to me to go in there and do my job.
You talked at the beginning about not wanting any controversy this time, and let's theoretically say you were to drop a close decision.
Yeah.
Do you feel another opportunity like this will come along, or does it feel like, where you are at this juncture in your career, that you really do have to kind of win this to remain?
No, I mean, the middleweight division is smoking right now. And even though I don't see there being any controversy or me taking a loss, but there's still so many other fighters out there with big fights to be made. So I look forward to, after however many fights I have with Canelo, because there's also a rematch clause in there, that I go out there and fight the best of the best. And I've always wanted to, face top guys. I'm not going to name them right now. I don't want to give nobody no shine. But at the end of the day, I've always wanted to fight these guys in the middleweight division.
The rematch clause, just to clarify, that's for Canelo.
That's for Canelo, yeah. That's
right. Can the zone exercise that? Or is it just on the, if it's just on the side?
Canelo.
Danny, I just want, when you reference Keith, negotiating the contract he did, of course, most of us think he should be the manager of the century, maybe rename the award after him. But, there's a fine line between, getting so much money that you become satisfied and still being hungry. Where did, you walk that line, because you're making this payday that's an incredible amount of money that'll change your life just this one night. Where do you walk the fine line between retaining the hunger and doing, the not sleeping on the silk sheets like Marvin Hagler?
Right. I love that quote, by the way.
And then being able to, be rewarded for the work and all the stuff you've done.
Well, it's all about the mental. It's all about how you view all of these things. And for me, money is just an object now. I mean, it's a great way for me to take care of my family and have the things that I've never had, give my son the best life. But I don't look at that as, I've made it, or I don't have work to do. I look at the glory. I know the money comes with it, but I look at beating everybody. I don't like taking losses. That's just point blank simple. So I like to go in there and prove that I'm the best against each and every fighter that they consider to be amongst the top.
And Danny, I heard you speaking recently about culture that Brooklyn had in the 80s, had a lot of culture. Mike Tyson would have his image up as the heavyweight champion from Bed-Stuy. Do you feel like you win this fight, you're the best fighter for Brooklyn since Mike?
Man, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even know. That's really for everybody else to judge. I would never put myself in a position to where I would level.
I'll say it. He will be the best fighter since Mike Tyson if he wins this. When he wins it.
Yeah, but I'm just happy to be amongst the great of Brooklyn fighters. Mike was one of my biggest idols. We all loved him and still love him to the day. And just to be following in the same footsteps and paths that he had, and me kind of see him from a child to know that I have the same opportunity and platform, it's surreal. Yeah.
Last question,
You and Andre have obviously been together for a very long time, and they're like family. Were you surprised recently when Triple G got rid of Abel Sanchez?
Oh man, I thought it was. I ain't gonna say hilarious, but I thought it was just like I thought it was funny because Abel is not the most pleasant guy when it comes to criticizing Triple G's opponents, right? He was talking a lot of negative things about me and Canelo, and saying that we're fighting for Golovkin's belts and so many other different disrespectful things. But he just lost about maybe 3 or 4 fighters in a row. 4 fighters in a row. I mean, I'm glad that I got my trainer that been here since day one, that made me who I am today. That I can when we get this win, not only I catapult, but he catapult as one of the best trainers in the world. To me, he is. So when I see all of these other trainers saying so many negative different things, and then all of this stuff happens, I just smile, man. It's just funny.
Especially, I wish bad on nobody, but that guy.
Were you surprised, Andre, that it happened or no?
No, I was waiting for it to happen.
That's funny.
He's the worst.
You told me be nice, and you go.
You had to be nice. But it's just the way he goes about things, and I'll never forget. We were on the phone, and we had a conference interview, and he told me that Danny was not ready for the big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching him when we fought Golovkin, and he was sweating bullets, and I'm like, oh, yeah, come on, baby. One more time. Let's keep mounting it up. And I don't wish bad on anybody. I really don't. But sometimes you could talk so much that you talk yourself right out of a situation. And that's what Abel Sanchez did.
But best of luck to him.
Yeah.
Best of luck to Golovkin and
whatever they choose
to do. Hopefully, me and Golovkin get it on in the near future. That's definitely somebody who I still have my sights on, even though I'm not overlooking Canelo in any way, shape, form. But for future opponents, I mean, there's so many guys out there that I want to face. So, with this fight is going to solidify my legacy, catapult me to the top as far as one of the main sports figures in boxing, and Eddie said this can damn well be the best comeback story in all of sports. So that's a motivating factor for me as well, because you guys know I never get tired of telling my story. I know that there's somebody out in the world who hasn't heard it, so as much as I can share it, as much as I can talk about it, that's what I'm going to do. I know that my life means more than just step inside the ring. Like LeBron said, I'm more than just an athlete, and I look forward to not only setting a great example as a true sportsman inside the sport, but a badass inside that ring. And I want to get the victory and decisive fashion and become the best middleweight in the world. Thank you.